Welcome to part 4 of your tutorial series on the MAD. In this guide we will be looking at the different options you have to set up your client's memberships, via direct debit or payment agreements, utilizing contracts and invoices. From the Clients tab, choose the client by clicking on the View button to open their profile. By clicking on one of the buttons at the top of the client's profile page, we can navigate to their membership and contracts, as well as to their contract add-ons and their invoices. First we will look at setting up a membership for the client. Click on the Add button to get started. Select the membership you want to set up for this client. These memberships are configured under Configuration, Membership Types. Select the payment frequency and all other details for this client's membership. Once completed, click Add to set up the membership. Now we will look at the contracts. The contracts page shows all their contracts history. We have the option to create two types of contracts. Firstly, a debit agreement. This is for setting up automatic direct debits, with automatic invoice generation. Secondly, we have the option to create a payment agreement. These are used to sell session packs, for example. Let's start by looking at a debit agreement. On the debit agreement form, select the date you want the debit agreement to start. Then select the frequency of your billing. For example, once a week or once a month. You can then choose to set an end date for the debit agreement or to leave it open-ended. If you have a choice of payment providers, choose one here. The rest of the client's information should be auto-filled. Then, simply click the Create button to finish setting up the direct debit. You can now go ahead and add the invoice details by clicking on the Add button. You'll find all the product and services that you set up under Products listed here in a drop-down list. Choose the product you want from the items list, then click Save. If needed, you can still edit the invoice description. Do this by clicking the Edit button and modifying the details. Once you're happy with the billing details, click the Activate button to start the direct debit. Once the direct debit has been activated, you can modify the end date, or you can end it at any time simply by clicking the End Now button. Scrolling down the page, you'll see this suspension section. Here you'll see a history of past suspensions. You can then set up the dates for any upcoming direct debit suspensions. Once set, your client's direct debit will be stopped between the chosen dates. In the Events section, you can see a history of all the actions that have been taken over time on this contract. Remember that at the bottom of the Configurations page, you need to select your invoice run days. These are the days that OutSystem automatically creates invoices for your active direct debits. Next we will look at contract types and payment agreements, which are used to sell session packs. Clicking the Add Payment Agreement button will bring up the agreement. It will be auto-filled in with your client's profile information. You'll simply need to add the session pack details in the number of payments and possibly who referred the client to you, then, click Create. Once created, you have the choice to edit it, generate a PDF version of it, to delete it, or to activate it. Let's go ahead and activate this one by clicking on Activate. Then indicate the start date. And confirm by clicking Activate. Once activated, you're going to want to create a manual invoice that can be emailed to your client for payment via bank transfer or cash, or you can accept credit card payments for it. To do this, click the Invoices button, then the Add button to create a new invoice. Click the Add button. The system knows we have an activated payment agreement, so it's asking us if we want to create an invoice for that agreement or for something else. Let's choose the activated agreement and then click Next. A pro forma or draft invoice has now been created. We can edit or add invoice lines here, and include notes and create a PDF at the bottom. Choose a product for the products list or add a detailed description here. Then click the Activate button to complete the process. Once activated, we can easily manage the invoice with these buttons if we manually collect a payment. If the client pays via bank transfer or cash, then we simply click the Collected button. If you want to take a credit card payment, click Pay Now. Select the client's payment system or add the client's card details and click the green Pay button. We then have the ability to manually or electronically refund the payment if needed. It's worth mentioning here that you can also create a PDF version of the invoice and email it to your client. There is even a Copy Invoice button if needed. The Payment System section shows the details and status of the card payment, while the Events section shows the activity's history. If you've set up a direct debit for your client, this add-on feature is fantastic. There is no need to create a separate invoice for any additional products or services that the client wants to purchase. Simply add them to the current direct debit and select whether to take the entire amount out at the next payment or to spread it across several payments. To add an additional purchase, click the Add button. Choose the date of the next debit. Then choose the product from the drop-down list. Add the quantity and the number of recurrences, if there are any. It will now be added to your client's direct debit weekly amount over the next week, or the next several weeks, based on the number of occurrences you've chosen. In this part of the tutorial series for the MAD functionality, we looked at setting your clients up with a membership, direct debits and payment agreements, as well as how to create contracts and invoices.